Hello, this is Trends. I am Bumi Obano. And as always, our online producer, Moses Omogena, is right here with me. So what's trending?
It's good to be here on the program again.
Yes,
Thank you for joining us. Yes, what's trending a lot is actually trending on social media, but two major hashtags that caught our attention are, first, hashtag DigiTrends. Now, DigiTrends or Dialogue Trends is a high-level, dialogue series or campaign that where key stakeholders, heads of state, directors of the AU, ECOWAS, and other key non-governmental organizations, great philanthropists come together to express and to share, experiences and lessons to improve good governance, to make democracy more democratic, and of course to to strengthen and to promote the fundamental human rights of everyone in Africa. It's basically Pan-African.
Why is it trending? Like, no. I
it's
understand they're talking
because
about
it's
important
ongoing.
things.
It's a campaign that is ongoing, and it's really big because this is not just a forum where people just come together and talk. Significant people come together to talk. Why? Because these key people are those who are expected to go back to their various countries and implement whatever has been discussed.
But is it just me, or sometimes it feels like a lot of talking happens?
Yes.
A lot of conferences.
Well, we hope that this one is
different,
is effective. And the theme for the talk this time around, now you make talk so lucid.
Okay.
Anyways, the theme basically is silencing the guns. Now, the DG believes that violence stems and persists, when people rebel against the governance of the day, when they feel cheated and not catered for by their leaders. So basically, every level or form of social violence or domestic violence, it persists because those responsible, don't let the perpetrators face the law. Exactly. So that there's some level of, perpetration in that regard. So they believe that every form of violence stems off as a result of a governance deficit or largely from the governance of the day. Now,
nothing to do with human nature being evil sometimes?
Well, human nature is criminal, basically, but it's the government, to put a fear and to instill, but that's why we have laws in the first place, why everyone has to work and live by the laws, and respect everyone's right to basically live.
Describing an utopian society.
Yes. Now, basically, the discourse of this time around is the third discourse, by the way. It seems to address and target women, basically, because they believe that most forms of violence, political violence, social violence, domestic violence, women and children are always at the receiving end. So there's a conscious effort to target women, basically, in this year's discourse. And the discourse is actually ongoing. One occurred yesterday. Today's own was about violence and vulnerability, women, and how women can be key roles to tackling these issues. Okay. Well, you can go to the website. You can also have a live stream, dgtrends.org.
Okay.
There. Now, next is hashtag the Hague date. Now, hashtag Hague date, the hashtag basically was created in awareness and anticipation for Kenya's President Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta, where he made public, known that he would actually face trial at The Hague, at the ICC, International Criminal Court, on the 8th of October. Now, Kenyatta is being charged for organizing an ethnic massacre that involved, the killing of 1,200 people. So that's one charge. Also, the court expects him to answer to allegations where, evidences, to these charges were missing or withheld. And witnesses also that were part of the prosecution mysteriously withdrew all of a sudden. So the ICC wants him to answer all this. I mean, that's it. It's going to be, the trial begins tomorrow, 8th of October.
And you mentioned something peculiar about the trial, the fact that Kenyatta is going to be the first sitting president. Yes,
to actually stand trial in the ICC. And of course, he's also going to have other heads of state to accompany him there. We don't know the significance of that. We don't know the relevance of that. Well, but we hope that true justice stems out of this eventually. Okay. So hashtag DigiTrends and hashtag the Hague date. And of course, don't forget, you can always join the conversation by sending us your tweets and your comments and, of course, suggestions or what you would like us to talk about on the program in the hashtag TVC Trends. And, of course, the Twitter handle to follow is at TVC Trends. Send your comments to our Facebook page, facebook.com/TVC Trends. And feel free to write us your email at thetrends@tvcnews.tv.
Okay.
Bumi, what's up? What are we talking about?
Now, if you've been following this program, you'd know that just weeks ago, after the Paralympian athlete Oscar Pistorius was found guilty of culpable homicide for the death of his girlfriend. Now, we talked about this a lot a few episodes back. But now, the second biggest murder trial of the year involving Shreyan Dewani, who is accused of conspiring to kill his wife, Annie Dewani, during their honeymoon in Cape Town in November 2010 has commenced. Now, according to a report by Amnesty International, in South Africa, about 1 woman is killed by her husband or boyfriend every 6 hours. And in Zimbabwe, 6 out of 10 murder cases tried in the High Court were related to domestic violence. Now, the list goes on. But today on Trends, we look at issues surrounding the trial and then attempt to address this trending tide of violence against women in Africa. But first, let's have a look at this.
Millionaire British businessman Shreyan Dewani has pleaded not guilty of arranging his bride's murder during their honeymoon in South Africa 4 years ago. He pleaded not guilty to 5 charges read aloud by the state prosecutor, including murder, kidnapping and robbery with aggravating circumstances. 34-year-old Dewani was implicated in his wife's death by 3 co-accused who agreed to testify for the state in exchange for lesser sentences. Tongo, one of the accused, alleged that Dewani had paid $1,500 for his wife to be killed. Dewani was extradited from Britain in April after losing a 3-year battle to avoid trial in South Africa. Since his arrival, he has been treated at the state psychiatric hospital for post-traumatic stress and depression related to the killing of his Swedish wife. Speaking at a news conference, Annie Dewani's father, Vinod Hindocha, said the trial marked the end of a long road.
It has been a period of torture for our family. And we have missed Annie a lot. Now that I'm here, all I ask for is the full story and justice.
If found guilty, Dewani faces up to 25 years in prison. The trial is set to run until mid-December.
Now, already all over social media and, different other online platforms, people talking about how this is the second big case in South Africa, looking at the death of a woman by a spouse. Now, it has not been proven yet because until proven guilty, you're innocent, right? But he is accused of killing his wife. And just a few weeks ago, it's another rich man accused of killing his girlfriend.
Well, like what social media citizens have been saying, it's an irony, and a big significance where 2 men are being tried about the same time, for killing the women they claim they love, Oscar Pistorius and Dewani. So that's
it's like a twist in the Romeo and Juliet story.
And what really struck me, your intro, you said that one in
every 6
women have been killed in 6 hours by their boyfriend. Wow, that info struck me. And Bumi, what just came to my mind? I had a hard time, convincing my girlfriend to say yes to me. If she hears that, she's going to think
it's
twice.
hard being a woman. It's hard. And another thing I don't understand when I follow the trial is why. If he did it, why?
That's the mega question.
So why,
I don't know. I guess Dewani is the only one that can answer that.
Yeah, we'll keep watching. But joining us to do justice to this today, we have Barrister Nkechi Onyeso, and via Skype, we have Sarah Mukasa. Now, both of you are very welcome to the program. So, Barrister, I saw you smiling there and nodding. Anything you want to contribute so far?
Well, when you said, if he did it, why? What struck me is because he can. Because our society have made women feel like we're not human.
Property.
When we say fundamental human rights, when we say universal fundamental human right? Are women actually included in the definition of human? Because it appears our laws, with all due respect, gentlemen, favors the male gender. We have very androcentric laws that is favoring the male. And when we push for a slight change to step up the pace of the woman, to be at par, we're not asking to be superior, to be at par. There's so much resistance from the religion angle, from cultural angle, the cry outs, because people are just used to things being the way they are. And when we say these laws, who made these laws? Feminists believe that these laws were made by men, because at the time when we're formulating our human rights laws, women were not coming out. Women were in the private sector. The men had charge of the public sector. So we had no say in how these laws worked. But what men don't know is even then and now, that women are the backbone of the economy. When the men were sitting down to form these laws, the women were managing the homes, managing the farms, keeping the homes together. Without a home, even the United Nations has identified the family as a fundamental structure of the society. Without that home, the men couldn't have done what they did.
Okay.
So going back now to say, oh, we did all this, we don't need your input. It's affecting. That's why there's so much killing. There's so much violence. They're asking for guns down.
All right. Nkechi, hold that thought for a minute and let me invite Sarah into the conversation. So, Sarah, what's your take on the current Dewani trial? Bearing in mind that we are still awaiting the sentencing of, Oscar Pistorius.
Well, it's very hard for me to make a judgment one way or the other, but what I will say is that most women and girls will suffer violence at the hands of loved ones. People, men mostly, that they're meant to trust and meant to, I guess, in our traditional societies, seek protection from. That's a fact. And as the judge said, your guest in the studio said, they do it because they can. Unfortunately, we have multiple systems of law that govern us on the continent. The first being the laws that govern our homes, our societies, and those are largely cultural laws, which, when one analyzes them, always place women at a subordinate status to that of men. And men have come to interpret that subordinate status largely as these women are either my property, I paid for her as a bride, she is my daughter, therefore I can decide what I do with her, and so on and so forth. And we find that those value systems are supported by our systems of law that are decided at state level.
Okay.
All right, Sarah.
At each of those levels, we are facing an uphill burden.
Okay, Sarah.
I beg your pardon?
Allow me to cut you in there. Thank you so much for that input. Now, taking a cue, for example, from the O.J. Simpson's case, the Oscar Pistorius, and now Dewani. Now, these three men share one thing in common. They didn't have the best of relationships from one series of fights and arguments with their spouses. Now, why do you think that men in these instances or circumstances resort easily to violence when they can just peacefully file for a divorce or just have a separation?
Are you asking Sarah? Because I can't actually see you.
Yes, I'm asking you, Sarah.
Okay. Like we said, our society sanctions them. When we talk about what it is to be a man, let's think about all the times that you have been taught, be a man. What does it mean to be a man? You must be strong, you must be powerful, you must be able to exercise power over somebody. You must be able to fight, and you must be prepared to win your battles through all means. including physical force.
All right.
All right. I
Okay.
saw you nodding when I was.
Physical force is absolutely acceptable, and it's actually essentialized in the case of men.
Okay.
It's actually essentialized. If you're a man who is peaceful, who does not like violence, who is all of these things, you'll find a very difficult time when you go to boarding school, when you go to different places where it will find it very.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Let
you,
me bring
Sarah.
Nkechi. Let me drag you. Sorry, Sarah. I just
you
want
were nodding
Nkechi
when
to.
I'm sure she has something to say.
Okay.
to that.
So what?
Well, I have a lot of, I'm bubbling with so many things to say.
I see.
Because when you say why kill, then, go for a divorce.
Yeah.
Let's go down history. We've had the First World War, we've had the Second World War. But would you believe it was not until the end of the Second World War that the jurisprudence for violence against women began to be formulated, that people were actually tried for violence against women. This is, generations have watched women being killed, children being murdered, and nothing was done about it. So there was that complacency that we can do it and nothing happens. Until quite recently, that the world woke up and said, you know what, when these crimes and these wars are taking place, the most affected are the women and the children. And they developed this jurisprudence to help protect and charge people for this. We're talking about a culture where they have things like honor killing, where they have things like brides being buried with their husbands. So it's always been okay for the woman to die. So that's why it's almost like the next thing to do.
Okay, Nkechi, I want to bring you back slightly to the trial in itself. Now, from a legal point of view, he has maintained that he's innocent of, what he's being charged for at the moment, even though the taxi driver and the other two people involved in this murder have, claims that he paid them to do this. Now, help us understand what would happen from now until December when the trial is expected to end.
Well, essentially, you've said it all. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And justice must not only be said to be done, it must be seen to be done. So even if we have people convicted that they actually were paid to carry out his instructions, we have to go through the normal trial. He gives his own testimony. He has his defense lawyers talking for him. The prosecutors present their case. The judge evaluates the cases on the evidence, on the circumstances given, and as much as possible avoiding bias, and then decides if there were enough evidence to show he actually committed this murder or if he's to be exonerated.
Now, from reports, we understand that Shireen Dewani was not a very happy married man because he claimed that his family pushed him into the marriage. Now, secondly, he made what the media called an uncomfortable truth about his sexuality, that he's in fact bisexual. Now, we know that issues of sexuality are very sensitive, especially for a very well-known millionaire like, Dewani, a British millionaire like Dewani. Now, do you somehow suspect that this might be reasons why he wanted to smoothly get rid of his wife to have his life back?
Well, I'm sorry. I don't think somebody has to die for you to have your life back. I don't think the woman took your life from you. You actually contracted this marriage. What makes you an adult is not how tall or how big you are, but how responsible you are to take action and take the consequences of your actions. If you don't want to marry the lady, then you don't marry the lady. If you marry the lady, you owe her a common courtesy to keep her alive, not to kill her. You divorce her if you don't need her. There's no excuse for violence and definitely no excuse for committing murder if he committed murder.
Okay. Sarah, now there's something I want to find out from you. Obviously, this trial shows that people are listening and women are getting justice for, violence against them. Also, we have Oscar-Pistorius, and we've had a few other cases. So does this mean that indeed violence against women, now it's becoming something that people are talking about and justice is being served at the end of the day? At least it looks like it might be. So there's progress, improvement, something to rejoice about. Do you think so?
I think that the fact that there are few high media cases should not take away from the fact that the vast majority of women who experience violence do not actually even feel confident reporting it because the system is so weighted against them. You know, I come and report that my husband beat me, I'm asked, why did he beat you? As though there's a justification for his ever, you know, laying his hands on me. So for most people, for most women, the violence is highly stigmatized. So they do not feel safe reporting it. I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it. I think it's a good thing that, you know, our outlets such as yours are engaging with the issues. But I think that the fact that we've had a few high-profile cases, in fact, 2 high-profile cases in recent times in South Africa, does not mean that, you know, that the problem is being seriously addressed on the ground.
Okay.
We need to do a lot more.
On that note, I would like to bring in the online community.
Precisely.
Let's hear what they have to say.
Our very first tweet comes from Clarence. And Clarence says, how convenient that Shirin Dewani's plea explanation begins with a tale of love and then PTSD, I believe that's post-traumatic stress disorder, before describing Annie's murder, #Dewani's trial. And Andrew says, Dewani asked people for help, found policemen, drove around looking for van, tried to call abroad on police phone, #Dewani trial. And Benita Levin says, heartbreaking listening to Dewani's family saying all they want is to know the truth, #Dewani's trial. And Eugene Visa says, amazing how the rights of the perpetrators supersedes the rights of the victim to live, #Dewani's trial, Oscar Pistorius' trial. And Eiffel Tower says, 2 men tried on the same day for killing women they claim to love. Sick, Oscar's trial, Dewani's trial. And Ruben Engine says, how did killers become our most attentioned celebrities? Oscar's trial, Dewani's trial. That's a very interesting question.
It seems like a lot of people are already passing their own judgment on social media. But you know, one thing, Nkechi, I'll address this to you. Now, with cases like this and all these trial, you know, out there, the trials out there in the media, everyone talking about it. And Sarah mentioned something about not getting, you know, blinded by all of that. That in fact, when a woman goes to the police station or whatever, she still asks funny questions like, why did he beat, you know, why did he beat you? So is the problem the attitude, not the law? Or how progressive are laws in Africa regarding domestic violence issue?
Thank you. I think Africa is trying to come up. I'll say trying because we still have a long way to go. Yes, they have the African Charter for the People and Human Act. We have recently appointed a lady, like the representative for that, to talk about that. And coming home to Nigeria, Lagos State to be precise, we've had ongoing trainings. In fact, we've just concluded one. The Lagos State Judiciary concluded the training on domestic violence and child abuse. So essentially, and I was so happy at that training, we had people from the prison service, we had the police, we had a few lawyers there as well. So there's a lot of education going on. You know, a lot of education, enlightenment, you know, the police are being talked to. Now, if you walk into any government hospital and you say you have been abused, there's a particular department that, you know, takes up your matter. We have a few NGOs that are very active as well. And Lagos State, I must give kudos to them, are trying. Their women's department also have a section that deal with domestic violence. So
where lies the problem then?
The problem is the attitude, the culture. You know, I was talking to a fellow colleague and she said, oh, Nkechi, you want us to lose our culture, lose our identity. I said, no, I don't. I'm pro our culture, our identity. But the aspect of our culture that do not agree with fundamental human rights, we need to change it. We need to change it. We all have to be on the same page. The United Nations, they have an ambassador for women's rights. They have what they call UN Women. They have the Women Economics. You know, they are doing a lot of things to bring women to the forefront to say, look, women can. I understand the government of Norway came out to say, look, their advancement is not due to their oil, but due to their allowing women to participate in earnest in the way their administration is run. A group of women feminists lay claim to that this alternative dispute resolution we have now is a product of having women join the judiciary, because we are more, according to the cultural feminists, we are more, relationship-based, networking-based, communication-based. We want to keep peace.
Okay.
So there's so many things we can bring on board if we are allowed. We need to change the orientation of the average person, not just the Africans, the average man.
Now, Sarah, I want to address this to you because Nkechi has talked about it, but what do you think? So do you think culture now plays a huge problem in the way women are treated? So culture is the problem, not just the laws.
Well, I mean, I guess you could say at the end of it that our laws reflect really our cultures and where we are as a society. The problem exists on many different levels. I think that even as we speak about this, very, very few countries in Africa have specific laws against violence, domestic violence. As far as I can remember, I think 3, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa. I'm not aware of any others that they have specific laws, and that's 3 out of 54 states. The people who have brought this issue onto the agenda are women's groups and women's organizations who have really pushed at international level, at our national levels, even at the level of the African Union, to make sure that this is an agenda that is addressed. And they are doing it with a lot of hostility, very, very few resources, and many of them have actually lost their lives in and their personal security is compromised in their quest to get this as a real issue for serious public debate and government priorities.
Okay.
All right. Now,
we need to address these issues in our religious institutions, our churches, our mosques, all these places, our schools. We need to address them in our homes. There are many, 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 many different places in which we need to address. So I'm very happy that media organizations such as yours are taking it on, because we know the media is a key site for mobilizing different attitudes and also public awareness and attention to these issues.
Now, there's certainly so much to talk about, but we have to go on a short break now. But when we come back, we'll continue talking about the plight of women in Africa. Shows how divided Egypt has become.
Huge exodus of Muslims out of Central African Republic. The conflict in the country has really depleted the population.
TVC News, reporting Africa through African eyes.
Africa means business. Major industries, innovative technology, small enterprises. I'm Alexandria Majala, and now that you know Africa means business, join us this and every week to meet the movers and shakers of the African continent.
TVC News through African eyes.
Art is one good vehicle that brings about innovation.
Well, if I look at Nigerian art, for instance, or the art from West Africa, I notice a distinctive style.
The spectacles at this show are endless.
We are trying to preserve this heritage.
We have done October Rain is a sub-activity.
Africans, showing on TVC News through African eyes.
Welcome back. You're still watching Trends. Now, earlier we were talking about the Dewani trial, which is about a young man, Dewani. Shreyan Dewani, who has been accused of killing his wife or, planning the murder of his wife. And this has also shed light on the plight of women in Africa. But what I want to know is what progress has been done. Now, you've mentioned a few places in Kechi, talked about Nigeria and maybe South Africa and Ghana. But in general, let's look at the entire continent now. What progress do you think has been done in, helping the plight of women as regard domestic violence and all of this?
I think I agree with Sarah. We've actually tried to start off something, but then how powerful is our voice is the issue, because many African countries are not catching on. They're not taking it on like a main issue. But on the international level, we've moved from the level whereby violence against women generally has just moved from a crime against the woman's dignity to actually being classified as a war crime. It was never, nobody has ever been tried for, and your charge is violence against women, but now it's been classified as a war crime and to some extent maybe genocide. And so it's getting to a level where it's being given a bit of attention. We have people now being sentenced solely for that at international tribunals. We have as I said, the United Nations, setting up departments, having ambassadors for women, focusing on women and violence. We have a few of our, even in the African Charter, a few of our African countries too, trying to, key into this European and American treaties on human rights to bring up the rights of the woman. We have developed what we call third world feminists as well, as we have the liberal, the cultural, the radical. We now have third world feminists, and our own angle, that's for the colored woman basically. We're looking at violence against women and women's rights generally, attacking it mainly through poverty, because it's somebody that has eaten that is concerned about their rights.
So far, how effective have some of these things been in addressing the problem?
It has been effective, but the enlightenment is not much. Most women don't even know they have this right. Most women don't even know they have this privilege that they can go to court to charge about. Take Nigeria, for example. We know the Mojeku versus, is it the Uchuku case? The Mojeku case, whereby our constitution has always stated non-discrimination against women, even as regards to inheritance. But we've all been in Nigeria, nobody has ever taken this matter to court onto the Mojeku case. Wow. And it started from Enugu Appeal Court and it got to the Supreme Court, and the court gave judgment that women must be allowed to inherit. It's always been in our constitution, but nobody has actually, taken it to court. And now that is up. That doesn't end the matter, because it's one thing getting your judgment and another thing implementing it. Yes, but at least we now have that as jurisprudence for that aspect.
I want Sarah to comment on that.
Let me come in there. Speaking, there is a usual
Sarah
saying,
come in. Okay, because I know Sarah has, I can see that she has a lot to say. Now, Sarah, would you say that women themselves are not aware of their rights? So this is why this problem still persists?
Well, it's true that many women are not aware of their rights. I will just say, though, that I think in terms of progress, because violence, is categorized in many different ways. I think on the global platform, the most significant aspect of violence that has made significant stride, and as Nkechi observed, has been recognized as a crime against humanity in which people can be tried for it, is sexual violence or violence within the context of conflict. And that's one form of violence. And that's clearly recognized. The pernicious form of domestic violence, by far the most violence that women continue to face on a regular basis. The picture is very, very mixed and very, very scattered. Because, as we said, all the issues that are involved in terms of women not wanting to report partners and so on and so forth. There are so many issues. I think we need to strengthen the work around, and I'm glad that, institutions such as the Economic Commission for Africa, which works on a regional basis, is really trying to look at the issue of violence and domestic violence as an economic, trying to look at the economic impact on domestic violence in Africa, because that's also an aspect of violence that we don't normally consider. The fact that there is an economic cost to the home and to the nation and to the continent. Every time a woman is hurt and abused and taken away from the productive work that she could be doing for the community and for the nation.
Okay, so in other words, it's a human problem, not a gender problem. So it's not about women now, it should be about the entire society.
All right, now, if I'm to come in, I was having a conversation earlier on with a friend, and there was something she said that really struck me. She said, women, an average Nigerian, for example, girl, needs to teach a man how to treat them. Now, she gave a very casual example. She says, when a man proposes to a woman, to a girl, and then she writes on her social media status, off the market. What do you buy at the market? Goods, properties. Now, subconsciously, the man treats you as such. What are your thoughts? I laughed and I goofed about it, but it really struck me. And I see it as a casual but yet significant, attitude of our girls and our women today. What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, people treat you the way you carry yourself. People take you the way you present yourself. If you want to be treated with respect, you carry yourself with respect. If you want to be treated with dignity, you carry yourself with dignity. If you want to be treated as a property, you carry yourself like a property. I believe a woman that is sure of herself and is confident of herself doesn't need to tell the man how to treat her. The man will know the standards and the parameters where he can't go beyond. But then again, it's an African thing.
But we still, but then we still have issues, so that no woman out there will think that, if I'm being bitten by my husband, it's because of the way I might behave or the way I carry myself. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, actually, that a man is violent is never, ever the fault of the victim. That a woman is raped is never, ever the fault of the victim. It is the man or the woman, because sometimes violence is perpetrated by women as well against their husbands. It is the man or the woman that cannot control their temper that has a problem. It is the man or the woman that cannot control his ibididom to rape a person that has a problem. It's never the victim that has a problem, but the victim has a role to play. The victim cannot stay and say, I'm defenseless. There's nothing I can do about it. I deserve it. Oh, it was my fault. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. That's why your impression about yourself matters to a large extent. And then, as we've all agreed, the society, a woman coming out of a battered marriage, it will take some time before her family will accept, okay, this was a battered marriage that she could have either stayed and died, or she comes out alive. But it has a lot to do, because if you die, it's you that died, not the people, the family members that made you stay there. They are alive. It's your life. So you have to take responsibility for your life. If you're in a relationship that it is not, a decent in the sense that you don't have mutual respect for each other, then you really need to, check it. We have to audit our lives. We have to audit our relationships. Is it in line with what we believe in? Because now we are hearing stories. We've had, a few years back, honestly, I don't think I've ever heard on the media, at least in Nigeria, of a man killing his wife, and it was everywhere. We know the story of the lady that lost her life to her. Yeah, so it's now glaring. So we now have to sit down and audit our relationships to see if it is going in the direction of mutual respect. The man has to respect you. You, as a woman, have to respect the man.
Okay.
I'm not saying we should deviate from our African culture because we feel, oh, the woman is subject to the man. But in a way, we have to come out from that the woman is not the property of anybody. That's why some cultures don't even collect bride price anymore for their daughters.
Yes, because you're not buying
Yes.
That. Okay, let's just hear what the social media peeps have to say.
A tweet just came in from Kiara's Diaries, and she says, so Shireen is bisexual. It takes them 4 years to prove me right. Hashtag Dewan's trial. And Mauritius says, okay, only two options in Dewan's trial. He's either a cold-blooded killer or he's innocent. No middle ground, unlike Oscar Pistorius. Hashtag Dewan's trial. And Simone says, well, there's a surprise. Gonna be interesting trial. And can't see Dewani coming home for Christmas. Hashtag guilty. Cheeky there. And the Brighton Mixing says, Dewani will not be treated as a criminal, like a criminal in South Africa. He's innocent until proven guilty by a court of law. MAGA Justice Department. And Claire Aspen says, guilty or not, should police files and evidence be made public before trial? It's a criminal case and not an episode of Poirot. Hashtag Dewani, hashtag Panorama. And the Leo King says, Dewani, would you prefer to have Barry Rue or Jerry Nail grill you on the stand? Your choice. Hashtag Oscar trial, hashtag Dewani trial. Now, we know that the NPA, National Prosecuting Authority in South Africa, recently made, disclosed that Dewani's trial is not going to be broadcast live.
Yes.
What are your reservations on that? Is that not, so some people call that some level of foul play in there?
No, not necessarily.
Because we're going to lose transparency like we got from the Oscar Pistorius. Don't you think so?
Yeah, but you and I are not going to pass the sentence on him. The judge is going to pass the sentence. So we are there, we're not there. He has the evidence, he's going to pass the sentence. It's left, the court has the right to decide they want it in a trial done in camera or they want it done openly. They will choose whichever one they think will give Dewani the fairest trial. Because, as I said, justice doesn't just have to be done, it has to be seen to be done.
Okay.
So I think that's,
So, Sarah, I know you're still with us. Now, there's this report I read, and it's from the International Rescue Committee, and they're saying husbands, not strangers or men with guns, are now the biggest threat to women in post-conflict West Africa. Now, we've spoken a lot about domestic violence. We've spoken a lot about, violence in general, about women. But now, do you think that from this report, they're saying it's not just the man walking down the street, it's the man that goes home with the woman that the woman should be afraid of. Why is this happening? So now, not just why are men, being violent to women, but why men that
they're supposed to love,
they live with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be said that this has always been the case. It's just now that we're waking up to the reality. And like I said in the beginning, most women will experience violence at the hands of a loved one, people that are well known to them, and people whom we all feel are supposed to provide protection and love. But really, unless we all change our mindsets and our attitudes to recognize a marriage as a partnership and not one in which one exercises that kind of control over another individual, the issue is going to persist. There's violence of a physical nature. There is, violence of a sexual nature around Africa. It's married women who are most at danger of contracting HIV than any other category of women at the hands of their husbands. So, I mean, this is a crisis. It is a crisis we have to talk about within the context of marriage and our understanding of marriage. And that's every home, every religious institution, and every, law institution that is serious about addressing these issues. Because at the end of it, there is an economic cost, there is a social cost, not just to our individual homes, but to the nation and the continent as a whole.
Now, Sarah, talking about gender equality, now the fight for gender equality, basically many people are saying it's not a fight about one gender over the other or the fight of one gender, finally being equal to the other, but just basically a human rights fight. So a fight for basic human rights that says every gender is equal. How would you address this?
But how would I address?
So basically, what would be your response when people say gender equality rights or human rights and not one gender over the other? How do they go about creating awareness for this fact? Because some men believe, oh, when they hear gender equality, it's women again. You know, the women are saying what they want. But people say, no, it's not about women saying what they want, but about basic human rights. So how do you think they should go about addressing this issue?
I would say it's about basic human rights and dignity. We all know when our dignities have been compromised, and we all know how we feel. Why is it okay for us to violate the rights and dignity of one group of people on the basis of their race, on the basis of their sex, on the basis of their age, and so on and so forth? These things just do not make sense. They do not make sense.
All right, okay.
For ourselves.
All right.
We do better for ourselves.
Okay, so Nkechi, I also want to hear your final words on this.
You know what? I was doing some reading, and one of the feminists was saying, why do we have anything like women rights? Why do we need women rights when we already have fundamental human rights? So are we saying women are not human?
Or superhumans.
Why do they have to have specific rights for us as if we don't fall under the universal human rights?
Okay, because
so
we
that
have
should answer
enough
the
time.
Oh,
I know you really want to keep talking, but remember, women are essential parts of the nation's economic development, and so care should be taken in their protection and their rights. Now, on that note, we have to call the program to an end. Unfortunately, I know Nkechi is still saying no, but the program has ended now. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being a part of the program.
www.nkechi.com.
And thank you, Nkechi, for being a part of the program. But remember, the conversation hasn't ended because you can go back online and let's keep talking. Goodbye for now.